All right, let's get up and running, guys. My name's Andrew Krause. Stephen Key over here. Wave your hand, Stephen. We both co-founded IGA many years ago and InventRight 25 years ago. I'm going to keep this intro pretty short, and then we're going to go ahead and get going with the topic. And we do have a whole bonus session at the end with patent attorney Kevin Prince. Kevin, raise your hand. So once we get done, we're going to do another 30 minutes. Wow, isn't that, because you guys paid a lot of money for this, right? You guys spent the big buck. Yeah, we're giving you your money's worth and then some. Definitely at least $100 seminar for free. So patent agent Kevin Prince is going to answer patent questions after Stephen and I get done with you guys, and we're gonna have a great one today. So here's my official intro. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Andrew Krause. I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America. We have a great meeting today with two licensing experts that are going to show you how to turn your interest into a licensing deal. These two licensing experts I'm talking about will be Stephen Key. Raise your hand, Stephen, again, of InventRight, and Andrew Krause. That's me of InventRight. So for the last 25 years, Stephen Key and myself have been coaching and mentoring inventors to do licensing deals and empowering them with the skills to do licensing deals their entire life. And we're both very proud of that. And we've been doing that at our other sister company, InventRight. Before we get going, type your name into the chat if you're new here and say, I am new. So you can click on the bottom down there at the chat and then type in I'm new. Also, if you could type your name, what state or country you're from, that's always cool. And so go over the chat right now and do that. Type in I'm new if you're new, and type in your name, what country you're from, and anything else. IGA was founded by Stephen Key and myself to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. As many of you know, Stephen Key and myself also run InventRight, where we coach inventors to license their products. Everything we do here at IGA is free. Yes, I said free, that big price you paid to get into this very important meeting. IGA also has a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. If you're located near one, we highly encourage you to join. There aren't many of them left, but if there is one near you, it's nice to hang out with other folks in person if you can. Please do not disclose anything that is confidential and is not already publicly available. This meeting is being recorded and will be harnessed on our website and YouTube channel soon. If any of you have questions for us, please type them into the chat as they come to you. We'll be doing some Q&A at the end and maybe even during as well. Today, Stephen and I are going to show you how to turn your interest in your product into a licensing deal. And with that, since I have a bit of a flu, I'm going to let Stephen do more speaking. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you guys sick. I am a little silly when I'm sick, though, so as you're probably already noticing. Stephen, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. I don't think I've ever given this talk before, to tell you the truth.
No?
No.
How to close a licensing? We
Well,
never talked about licensing in 25 years. That's all we talk about ad nauseum.
well, we do, but we don't talk about when you pitch your idea to a company and there's some interest, and next thing you know, you have your first meeting. Because it's one thing to pitch it, and that's a lot of pressure. You've done all this work. You've got to the right company. The marketing material is right. You filed intellectual property. You're really excited about everything. And sure enough, someone reaches back out to you and wants some questions. It's your first meeting. And that first meeting is so important because you have to get to the second and the third and the fourth meeting. But if you don't get past the first meeting, the deal's done. So I haven't really given this talk before because I started thinking about how delicate that first call is.
So what are you saying? Don't hose up the first meeting by not knowing what the hell you're doing?
Well,
You're saying?
I'm also saying that when you have that first meeting, stop selling. Stop talking. You got them. Now you need to do a little work here and ask some good questions so you can use it later. Yes, that's right. And we're going to talk about how you can gather some information by asking some questions so you can use that information later. So when you cut that licensing deal, you can use that information against them. How's that? All right.
In
Okay.
in a good way, because they're going to benefit from your tremendous product, right? In a good
That's
way.
all. It's always in a good way. It's a good
Yeah.
way for us. Okay. So, all right. The first meeting, how to turn interest into a licensing deal. Next slide, Andrew. All right. Here it goes, you guys. I believe that first meeting that you're going to have is really an important meeting. In fact, it's going to set the tone going forward. And what's really important is that you do a lot of listening. You ask a couple questions and you're prepared for the questions they're going to ask you. And guess what? They ask the same questions all the time. They do. Because what they're doing is trying to move your project forward a little bit, and they need to dig a little bit deeper, right? Because usually when you pitch to them, maybe you showed them a sell sheet, maybe a pitch deck, maybe your video, but there's so many more questions they're going to ask, right? So the goal here is to get on that call. Maybe it's Zoom, maybe it's even in person, but it's that first meeting. So next slide. Yeah, you have to be prepared, right? And being prepared is a little bit of doing a little bit of homework, knowing what they're going to ask, and I'm going to go through all the questions. Finding out who's going to be on the call with you, that's important too, and really understanding how you can build a working relationship with them, and how to do it to where it's kind of a meet and greet. It's like your first date, right? You don't want to get too uptight. You want to be kind of relaxed. You want to be pleasant. You want to have a good time. You want them to like you. You don't want them to run by doing some things that maybe you shouldn't be doing. I'll talk about those things too. So let's go to the next slide.
So far, this seems pretty solid advice, Stephen. I like it.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
I think we have a tendency to keep talking. Okay, so um, that's very true of Andrew and myself. So,
Oh.
uh, so what you're really trying to do is ask good questions and listen, because they will tell you what they want. They will tell you things that they will never tell you later. And what I like about that is because they're kind of dating you too. They're interviewing you and you're interviewing them. Like I said, it's your first date. And you want to handle it in such a way and ask some questions about them that you can take that information, and when the licensing agreement comes, you're able to negotiate a little differently because you have information they told you on that first call. The information you're going to ask for, they probably won't tell you again. So let's go to the next slide, please.
Steve, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When you get on these calls, are you just, I think some inventors, they mistakenly think they're there just to answer questions. If you show up with no questions, are you doing something wrong?
Yeah.
If you showed up with 0 questions, I'll just answer their questions. They'll be happy, and then we'll just move this thing forward. Is that a mistake?
Well, it is a mistake, and you probably don't know what questions to ask them.
Right. Okay.
And we're going to fix that tonight.
Cool.
Okay. All right, here are the 5 questions they're going to ask you. And they're really kind of interesting questions. The first thing they're going to ask you, do you have a patent? And in most situations, you don't. If you do, fantastic. Tell them, yes, I've got a patent. Fantastic. That's wonderful. But maybe you don't. Maybe you have a provisional patent application. So you tell them you have a provisional patent application. Maybe you have a design patent. But what they're really asking you, how much skin do you have in the game? What have you done? What could you possibly own? Because sometimes these companies, although maybe they don't really care about defending litigation of your potential idea, but they want to know that you have this ownership. So just be prepared. So when they say, do you have a patent? And if you say, yes, of course, and they might say, can we see it? You're going to say, yes. Or they might say, do you have you might say, yes, I have a provisional patent application. And they say, can we see it? Of course you can. Of course. And of course, if you have a design patent, even better. Yes, I'll show that to you. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to show it on that meeting, but you can show it later. Okay, because there's a couple other things that need to happen. Just because they ask for it and they want to see it doesn't mean you want to show it during this meeting. Okay. The second thing they're going to ask, do you have a prototype? And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. If you don't have a prototype, tell them that it's a pretty simple concept. It's an idea I think can be easily be prototyped, and if you really need one, I can probably put one together for you. But if you do have a prototype, because maybe it's on your sell sheet, maybe it's on your video, have your prototype there. Because when they ask for that, you might be able to bring it up and say, yes, let me show you once again the point of difference, the benefit of my product idea. It gives you another time to do a quick little demo. You might be able to show them something that maybe your video didn't have, or maybe you can show the size because you're holding it. But make sure if they do ask for one and you do have one, have it close by. The reason why this is so important, you control the pitch now because you control having the prototype in your hand. It's very important. Okay. They're also going to ask you, what are you looking for? All right. They might even ask, what type of royalty rate do you want? If they ask you, what are you looking for? That's a great question. You say you're looking for a licensing agreement, that you're not a manufacturer. And they'll say, okay, fantastic. And they might say, well, what type of royalty rate are you looking for? Well, you cannot just pull a royalty rate out of thin air. It's impossible because you really need to see the whole agreement, because there could be some other things in that licensing agreement that could impact what that royalty rate should be. So how do you answer that question? Because what they're really asking you, how reasonable are you going to be? Are you going to be that person we want to end this conversation now that you're some crazy inventor? That's what they're asking. So I would say, look, the royalty rate, I believe we can come to a royalty rate that works for you and works for me. So I'm flexible, like that we're talking, and I'm sure that we can come up with one that just works. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work.
Oh, but Mr. Stephen Key, inventor, what would that be?
Well, what have you done before? Put
Uh,
it back on them. Say, have you
mhm.
done a licensing agreement with somebody else? What was it?
Yeah, we have. I need to consult with our team, but yes, we have done licensing deals before.
Wonderful. I'm sure we can come to something that's fair. That's all you need to say. And then you move on. Or if they press it, say, look, it's really hard to come up with one since there's probably other things we need to discuss.
Mhm.
It's really simple, you guys.
I got a question for you, Stevens, in this vein. Are you trying to close a deal on this call?
No, no, because this is your first date. And
Hmm.
you don't want to talk about how many kids you're going to have and where you're going to live and everything else. It's too early. So just don't go too far into it. You don't have to. They're interviewing you to see if you're workable, likable. That's what they're doing. Okay. So here's a question that I think is probably more important today than it was even a couple of years ago. Well, what does it cost to make? Now, I can tell you the reason why this is so important, and we see this all the time, Andrew and I do. Someone might look at a product and they come back and they just say, well, we think it's going to cost too much to make. Well, everything's pretty price sensitive right now. So if you don't know the cost, you might want to do a little homework and see if you can find a contract manufacturer that can give you some quote. But let's say you don't want to do that. If you can find something similar on the market, you can say, well, this product sells for this price point. I think we might be a little bit less. That's all I have to say. Regardless, they have to do their own homework. But if by chance your product is going to be lower cost than the similar products on the market, and you know that, this is a great time to tell them. You guys, let me tell you the winning combination here. A new idea that's never been done before, that's got a great benefit that people are just going to love. And guess what? The price point is the same as similar products or even a little bit lower. That's a great combination. So if you do know that, leverage it and use it. But if you don't, that's okay too. The last thing they might ask you, have you sold any? Now, sometimes you have. We have a lot of members that have sold product before and they have some sales data. That's wonderful. You can tell them how many you sold. In most situations, you probably haven't sold that many, but you could tell them, look, I'm doing this part-time. I don't know what I'm doing. That's why I'm talking to you guys, because you guys are experts. Okay. But if you haven't sold any, just tell them, no, I haven't sold any, right? I'm looking for someone like yourself to bring it to market. Simple. So be prepared for those questions because that's going to help them take it to the next stage. Okay. Next slide, Andrew. Oh, Andrew really likes this one. Andrew loves this one. I know he does.
Your questions matter too.
Because
yeah.
these are the questions
I love
you're going
asking
to ask
questions.
them. Yeah. And Andrew's been talking about this for years, and the type of questions they have so much value. Next question. Next slide.
This is what I like to say about this. If you get interest from a company and you don't understand licensing and you think they're going to guide you to do a licensing deal, you're in big trouble. You've already lost. If you've never done a licensing deal before and you figure, well, they'll guide me through this, 80% of the deals you could have closed will die because you don't know what the hell you're doing. But they're a big company. They understand licensing. They'll guide me. No. So I like those. I couldn't help but to make that statement, Stephen.
So these are the questions you could ask them. And we're going to talk about how you can use that information later. You might want to ask them, what do you like about my product? That information, that insight is something that you think you know the benefit of your idea, but maybe you don't. Maybe they see something you don't. Or just maybe you can use that information later because maybe this company says no. And you can remarket that by having an insight from someone that's an expert that knows their customer better than you do. Also, having that insight is something that could be, I don't know, maybe new, or maybe you're spot on. But I'd really want to know what that expert thinks about it. But here's the second question. How do you see this product being implemented in the marketplace? You know what I'm asking them? Tell me your plan. This gives them an opportunity to brag. Well, we sell it, we currently sell in Walmart and Target, and they might go ahead and brag about all the places their other products are. I love when they do that. Because what they're telling you is information you're going to use later when you start to discuss what the minimum guarantees are going to be. Because what they're telling you is the volume of what they're going to sell. You know what you're asking them? Really, how many stores are you in? But you don't want to ask that. You don't want to ask it that way. That's like asking a farmer, how many trees do you have? Or how many acres do you have? Or how many cows do you have? You're asking them about their business directly. You don't ever want to do that. You just want to say, how do you see it? How do you see it being sold? And what do you think about it at retail? And let them just go on and brag and take it all down. Because those are the numbers. And you will do the math later to figure out what the potential revenue is. And that will allow you to come back and figure out what an appropriate minimum guarantee should be. And they probably won't tell you that later. Now, here's another one. Number 3, how important is intellectual property? Yeah, I want to know. And I bet you they're going to say it's important. I can guarantee they're going to say it's important. And you might even ask them, well, where do you want protection in? And they might tell you, we want it in the United States and Canada. And they might go on and on and on and on about how important it is to them. I write all that down. because I'm going to get them to pay for it. That's what I just did. Because if it's important to them, I'm going to cut that deal later to where they pay for all the intellectual property they want because they told me how important it is. So that's why these questions at the very beginning you can use a little bit later. Now, you want to do it very casually. That's a conversation. It's your first date. Hey, how you doing? I really love you guys. You guys, your products are fantastic. She's, what is it about my product you think is kind of cool? Let them go on. Well, what do you think? You guys are great at marketing. How do you think you're going to market it? What type of retailers would love it? Yeah, I know intellectual property is important to me. How important is it to you? Some companies it's really important. Is it important to you? And where would you like it? Make it casual. But you guys, there's nothing casual about this. This is information you're going to use later. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, this is really interesting. You really want to know who's in that meeting because different people within different companies have different responsibilities. If I was going to meet with their legal team, I would make sure that I was prepared to talk about my intellectual property, my point of difference. I'd want to talk about, yeah, there's similar ideas out there, and this is why mine's different. I'd want to talk about, I was so smart, I filed a utility, but I also filed a design patent too, and maybe even a copyright. I might want to talk about my strategy of how to, when I filed it, how I filed workarounds and variations to keep other people out, and how I included maybe some really clever ways to manufacture it. That would really help that IP person, their lawyer, say, well, you probably did a pretty good job. But let's say it's an engineer. He's going to want to know, hey, maybe how do we implement it? What's it going to cost? What are the changes to equipment? So in that situation, I might want to do a little bit of work and find out that I can answer some of those questions. And if I cannot, maybe I bring someone on that meeting that can answer some of those questions. So it's always good to know who you're meeting with. Now, here's the other thing I really like. You want those meetings to be small. At first, I wanted everybody in the room. If I didn't have everybody in the room, I didn't think they cared about me. I wanted sales and marketing and lawyers. I wanted everybody in there. But what I realized, when everybody's in there, no one says very much. But when they're by themselves, there's more freedom to talk. So you really want just one person in there, because if you pass the test with the one person, the next meeting you will have more. That's the way it typically works. And when you have a really big idea, the people you're going to meet at the very beginning are going to be engineers, because they have to vet it to make sure it's something they can actually do before they bring in marketing people. So simple. Okay, so let's next slide, please. Yeah, if it's on Zoom, which most meetings are, make sure your prototype is working, it's beautiful, and make sure you can show how it works without fumbling around with it. Practice with it a little bit so you show how fast and how easy it works. If you've got to practice a little bit, practice, but make sure you don't show any fumbling around. That doesn't look good. That's a bad pitch. Keep it casual, like I said. Dress appropriate. Make sure if you got some funny background, blur it out a little bit. Make sure there's no noise going on. The kids aren't talking. The dogs aren't barking. Make sure you've got a quiet area where you can give them your full attention. And like I said, the smaller the meeting, it's even better. All right, next slide. Okay. What do you not want to do in a meeting? This is I've been in so many meetings, I have to kind of laugh because I think I've probably done everything wrong in meetings. And over the course of time, I realized you can't rush it. And as much as I want the deal to be done, it doesn't work that way. So you just have to be patient. But there's certain things you really don't want to do in a meeting. When they see your idea, they might even ask you, have you shown it to anybody else? And of course you have. So you're going to say, yes, I have. And they might ask you, who? Okay, and you're not going to tell them who. You want to leverage. You want to tell them, yeah, I'm showing it to some other people, and that's why you better get this deal done fast. It doesn't really work that way. This isn't Hollywood, and you don't want to tell someone you're dating somebody else. So you tell them you're under NDA. You just said to them that you won't be talking about them. That's what you said. And that establishes trust. It's always about trust. If you try to leverage that you're working with somebody else, you just broke trust. Right away. Why should they trust you? So just be careful. Now, the second thing here is, and I see this all the time when people pitch me how I've got the next $1 million, $1 billion idea, and we're going to capture 10% of the market, and we're going to do this, and we do that. And you
Oh,
guys,
God.
that's an amateur move. Never talk about the industry that way. They know the industry. They know the reality of it. You don't ever have to say that, right? It's almost being a little understated, okay? Because it sends a message that you've done this before. When you're talking about the millions they're going to make, they know that you haven't done this before. So
And that's something that particular setting it like that. A lot of rookie entrepreneurs and inventors say, well, if we only capture 2% of the market, like we'll both make millions. Like CEOs, marketing minute, they hate that. It's like, oh, instantly, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're making ridiculous statements, and even if it's true, you shouldn't say that. It's just one of those typical red flags. Never, never, never say that. You don't want to trigger these red flags for them, right?
no.
You
The
don't.
other thing too, there's a very good chance this will be the first time you do this. And there's a very good chance you're going to be really nervous. So if you're going to talk a little bit more about your product, because those questions they might ask, practice. And practice in front of a camera or a friend, but practice a little bit. You'd be surprised how much better you can be if you do it 4 or 5 times, right? And be confident in yourself. Believe in your idea. Be enthusiastic, but not to the point of being ridiculous. But because if you're not enthusiastic about your idea, how is anybody else going to be? But don't go overboard, but be excited and tell them you're happy to be talking with them about it. Be that person they want to work with. Be that person they know that's going to be reasonable. Be that person that's going to make their life a little bit easier. Because typically inventors make their life terrible. And they know it. You guys, they know it. They've told Andrew and I. We drive them crazy with questions. We drive them crazy because we've never done it before. And we're asking all these questions and they're not there to educate you. Because once you're pitching, you're in the big leagues now. And sometimes you got to step up to the plate and swing that bat, and you haven't swung it before. So be prepared. Do a little bit of homework. Practice a little bit. These are the type of things that you can do. So when you are there, you're a little bit more relaxed. And do this. Smile. It's okay. It's okay to be human and always be yourself. Next slide, please.
Steven, I didn't know if you addressed this later in here. I think maybe you don't. Um, what is the time, what is the range for how long these meetings go? Do they go anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour? Well, I know it could vary quite a bit, but what's the goal with being respectful and I don't think you addressed this in your slides. I haven't looked at them, but how do you know when the meeting is up and you got to move on?
Typically, these meetings are 30 minutes, and typically they're going to be on Microsoft Meeting, and it's typically going to be on their platform. So if you haven't been on that platform, practice, get on it, because I cannot tell you how many times when these platforms started to come up that I'm having a hard time getting on for some reason, or I'm a little late. Always, you know what you also want to do? Get there 10 minutes early so you know you're in the room. Okay? Because if you have a problem, call someone that can help you. You don't do it 2 minutes before. Be early. Never be late for these first meetings. It's a bad sign. You're going to be late forever. Don't do that. Just get there early. And Andrew's right. They only go about 30 minutes, but sometimes they might go longer. And if that's a really good sign, right? If they go longer, sometimes they might go a little shorter. If you're really good at this, they might even go shorter. But regardless, the length of time, you want them to say, look, we're going to circle back with you. What are the next steps? And sometimes, and I don't have this in my notes, that what you can do after this meeting, send them a thank you note for the meeting and do a little recap. Hey, it was great talking with you. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure understanding what you saw in my product that was important to you. I'm glad we were able to discuss some of my patents and the point of difference. And I look forward to speaking with you again. If you have any questions, please let me know. You know why I'm recapping that? It's a paper trail. Yeah. So if something funny goes up down the line, I've got a paper trail that we had a meeting. We talked about this. Don't be too obvious, but it's okay to recap it. And what you can also do, and a lot of people do this, um, they're going to tell you what the next steps are, kind of. And they're basically, even though you want a meeting tomorrow or next week, they're going to say, look, thank you for this information. We will get back to you. And that's when you know they've got to do a little bit of homework. And that could take, who knows how long it's got to take, so you have to be patient. So that's why you want to do the follow-up email. Say, please let me know when you want to have another discussion. I'm always available. And just be patient, because it's going to take a little while for them to bring other people on. Now, this is what I have seen. If your product is so darn remarkable, I've seen it where they get on the phone call the next day. Unusual, but I've seen it happen. It's usually going to be a couple weeks, at least a couple weeks, before they circle back around. And in the meantime, they might ask a question or two. Or you might say in the meeting when they ask you a question that you don't have an answer, that you need to get back to them, and you can get back to them a little bit later with the answer answer the question that they need that answer to. So,
But and you know when you get on a phone call with a potential licensee, you're now, I like to say it this way, Stephen, to be kind of funny, but I'm not really joking. You're now a real person. You exist. Before you were just an email and a sell sheet. You're real. And they verified, yeah, well, we could work with this person. Not, oh, I like the product, but boy, this person's going to be a pain in the butt. So they verified that you're somebody that they believe they can work with. So now when they're emailing you back and forth, it's not really impersonal, it's personal. They're visualizing what you look like, they're remembering you. Do not
right.
underestimate the value of building that relationship by looking somebody and yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be on a Zoom or a Microsoft Meetings or something. But just the fact that you're easy enough to talk to, it's now real. And a lot of inventors will avoid doing this call. And that's a mistake because they just
Well,
won't treat you like a human being quite so much because you really aren't yet. You're just a freaking email.
I don't think people realize that once there's interest, it's like you're fishing and you got a nibble. You haven't caught the fish in the boat yet. And that, from getting a bite to reeling it in and cooking it up, is two different things. And I've seen a lot of people, once they get interest, they can't hook the fish. I mean, that's pretty typical, you guys. They get interest, but they don't know how to land it, right? So that's why I think this is an important webinar we've done, because we haven't really talked about how to land the fish. We've talked about how to bait the hook, but not land it. The other thing I want to mention, I'll get to this in just 1 second too, and something that we have noticed, and I'm going to give you a tip that's really important here. When you send that email, please look at your signature. And what does that look like? Does it look like someone they want to work with? Does it look like you're some inventor by yourself, not knowing what you're doing? No. You want to look like you're in business. Now, that doesn't mean going out and filing an LLC. But if you look at our email at InventRight, I wish we had it up on a slide, you'll see there's a logo, InventRight. There's a picture like of Andrew, and there'll be a little icons of how to get a hold of me. But you know what it looks like? It looks like I'm in business. And they want to work with people that are in business. So please look at your signature a little bit more carefully and realize, what am I saying to that company?
Even I disagree completely. I think your email should be happybeach@hotmail, and it should have some inappropriate quote below it, and no picture of you at all, of course.
You know
And
what?
it should say, like, free something email or at the bottom.
Hey,
That's creating a good impression. That's what I.
how many signatures I've seen where people don't even have their telephone number on there? It's like,
Well, but it's so
really?
easy to create a good impression. Gmail is fine. You don't need a
Just,
website. Just like Stephen Key. Stephen Key Designs at Gmail. Andrew
you know
Krause at
what?
Gmail.
Do get a little logo, guys. At least put a little logo down there, because that looks like you did a little bit of effort, and it's free now. These logos you can get anywhere. So take a
Yeah.
little bit of time to look like you're really in business. You don't have to be. Look like you are, though. Okay, I get it. All right. Okay. So here it is, you guys. You want to be patient, and Andrew knows I'm the most patient guy he's ever met. You want to be patient.
Sure.
You want to use time. Let me tell you how powerful time is. See, you're in a hurry. You have no leverage when you're in a hurry. Let me tell you when you really have leverage. When they email you back and you don't respond for a couple days. See, you don't know that, because you know what you do when they email you? You reply back within a second. You're in such a hurry, and Andrew and I have seen it. You're in such a hurry that you want to say something which you haven't even talked to anybody about, or you're not even sure you answer the question right, but you think you've got to answer them within minutes. But the minute you let it sit for a day, you're changing the leverage. You know what that means? That means you got other stuff going on too. Powerful. The second most powerful thing in a negotiation deal is saying no. But the second most powerful thing is letting time tick a little bit. It's hard to do. I know it is, but it's powerful. Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about, that's why we have a Kevin Prince on, you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about intellectual property in just a minute, how important it is, because at the end of the day, it is important. It's important on so many factors. It's not so much important to defend something, but it takes away risk, and it gives them a reason to pay you. There it is. It gives them a reason to pay you. It gives them an incentive. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. The company culture, to me, I'll tell you, the most important thing for me when I'm investigating a company is really their culture. Do they work with inventors? Do they have good social media? Do they have good reviews on Amazon? What's the culture? Do they do a lot of innovative things? Um, are they a company giving back somehow? Is it a company that has a reputation of that you want to be associated with? I think it's really important. I don't think you spend enough time really looking at that. And do your homework, you guys. It's really simple. Type in a company's name and lawsuits and complaints and do some homework. And if people are complaining on Reddit on them, go to Reddit, type them in and see how many complaints. If they've got all those complaints, you might want to step over them and find somebody else. It's pretty simple. You want a company to show respect, and you want to give them respect as well. Next slide, Andrew. Yeah. The most precious thing we have today, I think, is trust. And I think it's really hard today. No one trusts anybody. Who hasn't been scammed already? You can't watch the news. You don't even know if you're watching the news if it's AI or real anymore, do you? I mean, today it's a crazy world we live in. So to build trust, it takes a little bit of time. And you have to go a little slow, and you have to make it about the other person. Don't make it about you. Make it about them. Ask good questions. Give them compliments on their product.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a program that I absolutely love at InventRight with our coaching students that we coach to license their products called Bridging the Gap. And what I like about it is we invite CEOs and marketing managers from companies on, and they talk about their company history and they talk about what they have to deal with as somebody that's receiving these submissions and what it takes with their job to launch new products. And I tell our students, I say, I don't care if you have, let's say it's a kitchen gadget. No, I know you don't have a kitchen gadget. You should still watch that recorded seminar with that marketing manager or that CEO from the big company because you're going to learn from their perspective. How do they see their job? How do they see inventors? What are the problems they have to deal with? So if you can be sympathetic and empathetic with these people, it's not all about you. And if they just get this sense like it's all about me, it's all about me, my invention is the greatest thing in the world. Like think about them for a sec. And with the words you use and the things you say, it's very easy to do that. But if you're not conscious of it and you're not doing it and you're just trying to shove your invention down their throat, that's not going to work. Don't do that.
Andrew, let's go to the next slide. I think I'm done. I think it's over. So we could, there it is, you guys. You really want to be the person they want to be on their team. It's really simple. And you can do that. With a little bit of practice, it's not that difficult. But I have to tell you, as I said before, it's a big difference from getting interest to getting the deal. It's big. And so you have to be careful about that. Okay, do we have any questions? And then we'll jump on and because we have Kevin here. Any questions, you guys?
Any questions on this subject, and then we're going to get on with Kevin. He's going to do patent Q&A. So yeah, there's a bunch of questions. Jose said, I imagine that if I have two professions, one is a realtor and one is a product developer, what do you suggest doing to delete my first profession and leave only product developer so it looks better? I'm talking about when I send emails for licensing. So on LinkedIn, I think it's perfectly okay. Stephen has talked about this many times to have say, look, I'm a plumber, and then also it says and product developer. Perfectly fine, even if you're not developing plumbing products, but if you are, even all that much better. It's okay to be who you are. Stephen, do you have anything to say on that?
Guys, well, it is because inventors do a lot of different things. And if you're sending an email, then yeah, you might want to change a different email. That's probably not that difficult to do. But I wouldn't worry about that so much, you guys. I don't think it's a big deal. You know what they really care about too? They don't care about where you've been. They care about where you're going. Don't forget about that, right? That's what they care about. What are you showing me today? Not, I don't care what you did yesterday. What are you showing me today? That's what's the most important part.
Stephen, this is kind of a new question. I'm sure we've gotten it before, but Albert asked it earlier and he typed it in again, so I know he wants to get it answered. Albert said, "What is the etiquette for recording the initial Zoom meeting?"
Oh,
So, what I would say, my reaction to that is, Albert, most of the time you're going to be on their platform.
yeah.
Now, if you sent them the link to Zoom or whatever, then you have the ability to record it. I think it's my knee-jerk reaction is I think it's a little weird. You want them to be able to speak freely. If your computer microphone and speakers are live, you could pick up your cell phone, you could click the record button, you could put it down there. So just for yourself, so you have the notes, if you feel like you might be nervous, you can record it. If you have a headset like me, you're not going to hear both sides of the conversation. So I wouldn't hesitate to record it for your own personal reference, but to bring them onto your platform, let's say you send them a Zoom link, if they don't send you a link, I think it's a little awkward. That's my knee-jerk reaction. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I think you want to have the freedoms to speak freely. Don't think you're being recorded.
Yeah. Let's see. Stephen, it's just general, questions that we always get all over the place about NDAs. Should I get him to sign the NDA, this or that? So let's look for some ones. Sorry, guys, we want to try to keep it on topic because we could talk for another hour on everything. Um, do you guys have any? And you can unmute yourself. Let me change this so you can unmute yourself. So you can either wave your hand or digitally raise your hand. Does anybody? There you go, Amy. Why don't you go for it? I know Amy.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Thank you for all your effort. All these make such a difference. These Zoom meetings, like I get a lot out of them. So thank you.
Wonderful.
My question is, when I started in a meeting of a $10 million company, their very first question to me, which kind of threw me off guard, was, "Are you open to exclusivity? Because we don't want you to go to,"
Oh, okay.
and they named their larger competitor. And I said, "Shh, I'm open to it, but that's something we can talk about later." Like, I
Perfect.
didn't know what else to say.
Perfect. No,
However, I haven't heard from him since.
well,
Hmm.
well, you said the right thing.
Okay.
Okay. Because what they're asking for, and that's really a great question, and you want them to ask that. You want them to want that.
Yeah.
All right, because they
Sure.
all want it. So
Yeah.
of course, if they say absolutely. And
Look, yeah.
realize the person you're dealing with is probably not the person you're going to deal with the licensing agreement.
This was the CEO. Like, and from there I said, "Well, what is your vision? What do you see?" And he named 3 amazing visions for his company with this product.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so I sent him samples because I said, "I'm
Okay.
open to having you see what I've got." And
How
yeah,
long has it been since you guys have reconnected?
January 15th. So it's been 3 months. And I
Oh,
told him he can test them and all that. So I haven't heard from him since, though.
okay.
Have you reached out to him?
Oh, yeah.
How did you reach out?
Email, same way that we did before. We actually connected on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I have said, let me know if you get the samples, or did you get the samples? That was my first one. Second one, it's been 2 months now. Let me know, what you're thinking.
I
Nothing.
would reach out on LinkedIn again. Those emails might be going to his spam. Have you reached out on
Okay.
LinkedIn as well?
Yes, and
Okay,
the 2
good.
people we were on the call with in his room. And the other thing I was going to tell you, I was super shocked by this too. I didn't know I was going to be in a room with 2 or 3 other people when they put me on Zoom, so I had to be prepared for that. They were all looking down at their computers, even though I was on their screen. So it looked to me like they weren't interested in what I was doing because I was talking to their faces looking down. Does that make sense? So, and it was basically, what you got, Amy? What is it? Like they were expecting me to lead. So I had to be prepared for that too.
Yeah, because you're when you're in those meetings, you're in the big leagues and you haven't been there before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why having a little bit of practice, starting with smaller companies first, is not a bad idea,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And recognize that sometimes something out of left field is going to happen to you.
Yeah,
So,
that was a big one. And the exclusivity thing was the very first thing.
well, just have a sense of humor about stuff
Yeah.
and be able to laugh about it and kind of say, hey, everybody, um, I've just realized that you just don't know exactly how they conduct meetings in their department. I mean, they
Yeah.
might do something completely different. Another company might do something completely different. He might have brought people in that didn't want to be there.
Hmm.
You know, here's the other thing too. We've talked about this before. When a CEO, you know, when a product goes to a CEO and he has to grab some other people, that's not the greatest meeting because
Hmm.
now he's kind of forcing them to do something where
Mhm.
you'd rather go into someone a little bit lower that they can bring the right people in. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
when you're
since
bought,
then, I've really learned to talk to the lead on the big companies, go to the legal department first, because the CEOs will send you there in the first place, you know.
yeah,
No, not really. No,
No,
well,
no.
that's very rare.
Yeah,
really?
you don't
That's
want to do
all
that.
I've been getting. I've been getting legal after legal after legal.
What industry are you in?
I'm in paint and I'm in beauty, same product, and I'm in food.
Well,
Food, maybe that food's kind of a little harder, but those other two, you shouldn't be going to legal all the time. Something's a little bit
well,
off there.
Hmm.
yeah, we don't see legal
Are
too.
they, are you approaching somebody who's sending you to legal?
Yes.
Yeah, but are you approaching a marketing manager, a product
Product
developer?
developer. Yeah, they
Product
send.
developer, maybe marketing manager is going to be a little better, or sales, and you just tell them, no, I don't need to go to legal. I just need to show my product. And
So,
if,
what do the legal say? People say in the meeting.
Uh, well, no, I'm not in the meeting with the legal people.
Oh,
The email is talk with legal first. Ari Sherwin at Sherwin Williams.
oh,
He
well,
sent
yeah,
me to
okay,
legal
okay, okay.
first.
Wait a minute. Let's back
yeah,
up here, you guys. When you're dealing with those type of companies, you need a different strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we could have a maybe a whole nother class on that. But when you're dealing with that level of companies, these billion-dollar companies,
yeah.
number one, they don't deal with individuals.
Mm.
They they don't deal with an inventor. They deal with other teams of the smaller companies. So right away, you got to have the right approach for them, right? And yeah, they're sitting over to legal because they're trying to probably get rid of you. I hate to say that, to try to kind of get you away from them a little bit because they don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a whole nother, and maybe we should do one. In fact, we should do one on how to deal with big boys because it is completely different, the bigger guys. And departments you go into who you won't never talk to, maybe later, they have to vet it, they have to do a bunch of stuff. So we'll think about doing a class. If you guys think that's, you know, I usually don't do big, you know, not all of us are dealing with the Procter and Gamble's, the Coca-Colas, the not all of us are dealing with those size of companies. So, but it's a different approach. And maybe we could do a class on that if you guys think that's a good idea. Let us know.
Thank you, Amy. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm gonna retract something I said earlier. Philip Kaufman, who is a former speaker and somebody I respect tremendously. I don't know if I see him on here, but feel free to unmute yourself, Philip. I saw him at the hardware show actually, and he mentioned. Thank you, Philip, for what you wrote, because you're absolutely spot on. He wrote, recording conversations without consent can be challenging. Look into the legal side of that. He's absolutely right. There are one-party consent states, two-party consent states. You need to know what state they're in and whether or not you can record it without their permission. So what I said earlier, what I said, it's weird just to record it. Well, at least you're being upfront then. When you record it on your phone, even if it's just for your own personal purposes,
Don't do it.
if it's a two-party consent state, you're making a no-no there, and what I said is incorrect. Now, if it's one-party consent, you know what state they're in, you could record it, but so please ignore what I said earlier, and please refer to all that because it
Well,
is very complicated.
here's a good question since we have a major player here at a big company. What's the company policy when an idea comes in? Do you send it to legal?
Some
From my side, or
Yeah.
um you surface it amongst marketing groups and
Okay,
and you try to get it around, but we typically don't do that from our side. So
good. All right.
from
We
where
don't,
I'm at anyways.
yeah, we don't see it that often, but they want to make sure they might have something they want you to sign, some submission form. They want to make sure that you're not going to come back and
We
take.
have NDAs for everybody we talk to. So
Okay.
like any partnership has to have an NDA. So that's
Okay.
very common for us.
Hey, you guys, we're coming up on the hour, and I want
We got
to.
to do a group shot, Stephen.
Yeah,
Don't
let's do a
forget.
group shot first.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is, and we're gonna do another half an hour quick Q&A with Kevin. He's absolutely amazing. He's my neighbor. He lived in town, but now he lives literally 2 blocks away. And that's not why. He's just very good, very spot on, very sharp patent practitioner. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a thumbs up, a smile. Don't call me, or whatever you want to do. But to give a thumbs up or a smile, and we're gonna do a couple pages here. And so okay, everybody do that. And there we go. It's page 1. Keep going. I got to do another page. Keep up the thumbs up or the smile.
Hey,
And I'm gonna
Eric.
capture
Okay.
window. Another page, one more page here. Keep it
Eric
going,
knows
guys.
the drill. You don't have to tell him. He's been there
Capture
before.
window. There we go. All right, cool. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Appreciate it.
I want to talk a little bit about, I want to introduce Kevin Prince. You guys, you probably know who he is. The guy's everywhere. And Kevin Prince has been doing this forever and a day, and he's done thousands. I mean, literally, you've had thousands of clients, haven't you? How many, Kevin?
I think about 4,000 now.
4,000.
In all
Wow.
states, yeah.
Okay. You know what that means? And in fact, he's even recognized as being one of the top guys helping you with design patents too. Didn't you tell me that too? You were in one of the top 10 or something crazy?
Last year we were the number 16 in the whole country for getting design patents.
Okay. You guys, Kevin Prince, I use him. And he does a good job, and I can use anybody. And I have used some really big firms to help on some of my stuff. And I have to tell you, you don't necessarily pay more and get something better. That doesn't really work that way. In fact, what happens when you work with some of these bigger firms, you have to manage it a little bit tighter. It is a little bit more expensive. Doesn't mean it's going to be not a good job. It's just different. But I can tell you one thing: when you're working with Kevin Prince, you're working with the guy, and he's one of us. In fact, I met Kevin probably 20 years ago with an inventor group down in Orange County. And he went to Berkeley, so he's no slouch here, man. The guy's got the degree behind him. So, but here's the trick, you guys. Intellectual property, I love it. I hate it. It's important to have. It gives you credibility. It gives those companies the warms and fuzzies. It takes risk away. And to really have someone on your side is really important. So we're really happy to have Kevin here to spend some time with you to see if you're doing the right thing, you have any questions. And guess what? It's absolutely free. And so he's a hero in my book. And Kevin, thank you very much for being here today.
Wow. Well, Stephen, thank you for that. I mean, gosh, that's an amazing intro. So thank you.
Well, you guys, I get to see so many patent attorneys, and I have to tell you, my rant is that some of these guys don't have your best interest. And I hate to say it. And the whole profession hates for me to shine the light on that because there's a conflict sometimes. But I have to tell you, Kevin kind of looks after you a little bit and gives you the real scoop here. And I really appreciate that. I value that. And I think all of us here in the room does, because these ideas are important to us and we want to make good decisions. So thank you for helping us make good decisions. So
Yeah,
you guys,
my pleasure.
Kevin, take it away.
All right. Well, Andrew, I don't know if you want to have
Oh, Madeleine, I made Madeleine the host. She
go.
should be here. She should be able to come on. Madeleine Key, Stephen's daughter, and she's the director here as well. She's gonna be co-hosting the half an hour of Q&A with Kevin. Kevin is a hard stop, I think, at 5:30. So Madeleine, are you there?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Give me
Yeah,
a
we can
thumbs
see you
up.
too.
Okay, great.
Good.
Awesome. Great to be joining you from Baja, Southern California in Mexico. I'm very excited to be here with Kevin. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, and you, Andrew. For those that have joined us before, we like to keep this quick. We have a fantastic conversation where Kevin wants to answer your questions about IP. People always come up with something I've never heard before. So let it roll. I would say go ahead and add your comment in the group chat so everyone can read it. We can also do maybe a hands up situation if people prefer. Maybe try to keep your question to, not necessarily a paragraph style, so we can get to as many questions as we can. But I also want to encourage you. What we've been doing on InventRight TV is some interviews with Kevin's successful clients. And something that I've really come away with is, wow, I knew picking a patent practitioner was important, but not quite this important. So, okay, Scott from Canada, thank you for being here with us, Scott. He's asking, how do you include workarounds in a patent application? Kevin, is this something you think about when you work with inventors? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and this has to do with how you structure claims. Generally speaking, for the thing that is the point of novelty of your invention, the thing that makes yours unique, we can be a little specific. But when it comes to the things that are optional, we want to be general, because we don't, if you have, let's say you have a, I don't know, a jacket invention where you have a channel for your earbuds wire. I know everyone's on wireless now, but let's say, you had something like that. What's important is, how the channel gets close to the pocket where your iPhone or whatever's going to be, and where it terminates up by the neckline. Those are kind of details that are going to be important. What doesn't really matter is what kind of closure the jacket has. Is it a zipper? Is it snaps? Is it Velcro? So in claim 1, for example, we would say, just there's a closure mechanism. And so in the everything that you can do to get specific details out of claim 1, the better, because that makes it harder for your competitors to come in with some other closure mechanism. Because if they're using Velcro and you said snaps, well, now they're getting around your claim 1. But if you just say a closure mechanism and you spell out what that can mean in the spec, then it becomes very hard for them to figure out how to work around this claim. And I would recommend too, Madeleine, if people haven't read the claims for the average Joe, the blog, if you go to inventright.com and click on blog, and then click on my name on the right, I think I'm right under Stephen, it'll go to a 3-part article that talks about claims for the average Joe, and I just use a simple example of a chair. How would you write good claims on a chair? And I walk through the process of making those claims stronger and stronger, and basically protecting against workarounds. So that would be really good, because really so many people don't understand claims, and that's the key of a utility patent. It really is. So I would recommend that article. It's a 3-part article. There's even some homework for you in there. So definitely, have a look at that.
Okay, Kevin, I'm going to insert one of my questions here. Is a patent application ever truly dead? Let's say you work with a patent attorney or agent, something happens to him or her, the patent application is abandoned, but you still really want to get that patent. Have you ever helped anyone with a situation like that, or
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So yes, and that's a good question. There's a difference between a dead provisional patent and a dead non-provisional utility patent, or even a dead non-provisional design patent. So let's look at the provisional first. When you file a provisional application, you have a year to file the related non-provisional. The provisional acts like a placeholder in line at the patent office. But if you wait longer than a year to cash in that reservation, basically, if that 1-year deadline expires, then the PPA expires. It doesn't go abandoned, it expires. And when a PPA expires, it's as though it was never filed. It just disappears. It's never going to see the light of day. It's never going to be published. No one can reference it. You can't even reference it. Okay. So, I mean, you could take the same application and file it again, but now that's a new PPA as far as the patent office is concerned. So that 1-year deadline on provisionals is virtually impossible to, you can't resurrect it because you were a couple days late. I mean, you're dead in the water if you're a couple days late. On a non-provisional application, this happens a lot. We'll get an office action and, you know, we'll email the client and we don't get a response. And so we'll call the client and the phone number's dead, or we leave a voicemail and we never get a response. Well, finally, when we get to the point of sending a certified letter and it comes back unreturned, you know, it's returned because the address doesn't work, there's really nothing more that we can do. And that poor inventor, that client of ours, needs to respond within 6 months, or that application goes abandoned. There's lots of scenarios where things like that can happen. Like you said, if your patent practitioner dies or goes to jail or who knows what, you would not have intentionally let that application go abandoned. It was not your intention, right? So there is a way of reviving a patent application that has gone abandoned if the abandonment was unintentional. Now, let me tell you what unintentional is not. Unintentional is not, I don't have the money to pay my patent attorney, so I'm going to wait. You know, that's not unintentional. You intentionally decided not to continue it. This happens a lot, surprisingly, when we get a notice of allowance. The patent's been approved. You have 3 months to pay the issue fee to the government, or that patent's going to go abandoned. And if we can't get a hold of the client, or if the client doesn't have the money, you know, that's going to go abandoned. If it was unintentional, like, you know, we, you know, mistyped the email address and they never got the notification or something like that, you can revive it, but it has to be unintentional. And it's about somewhere between $500 and $1,000 for that petition to revive. So you don't want to just throw money away. I mean, really, these deadlines, your patent attorney and your patent agents are serious about the deadlines because, you know, that there are some ramifications if those expire.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, so unintentional. Getting back to PPAs for a second, we've got a couple great questions. People were listening closely when you said, okay, so that 12 months is up. The PPA, provisional patent application, has not been converted to a non-provisional. Can you refile that same application and get a new place in line? And what happens to that PPO at the office? I mean, where does it go? Can someone access it? What happens then?
Yeah, you can probably access it, but only you can as the inventor. No one else will be able to access an expired PPA, and it'll never be published. So if your PPA expires, yes, you can file it again, the same exact application, you can file it again. But it's like this. I like to think of the PPA as a placeholder in line at the patent office. And if your 1 year expires, you're getting out of line. And if you refile the same application, then you're getting back in line. Okay. But if 6 months ago, someone else got in line behind you with a similar application, guess what? They moved to the first spot, and now you're second in line. And you don't get anything for being second in line at the patent office. After the America Invents Act of 2013, we're on a first to file system. And so if you're first in line, good for you. And that's why what's interesting, people will say, well, my provisional patent's going to expire in July, and I'll just refile it in July. And I think, because they're not ready to do the non-provisional, I'll say, well, why do that? Why not file it today? If you know that first provisional is going to expire, get the earliest filing date you can. Get back in line as soon as you can, because you don't want someone who files it next month to be in front of you.
Interesting. But you couldn't refile before the 12 months were up. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
But you can.
Sure.
Oh, I've never heard that. So you're like,
okay. No. You could file every month. You know?
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I told you guys, I learned something new every day. I did not shout out those great questions, Michelle and Matthew. Thank you for those questions. Mito, I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, asked a fascinating question. He says, or they say, what kind of things can I instruct an industrial designer to incorporate or be mindful of when I'm finalizing my design for manufacture, so that future design and utility patents can be best initiated and processed? I really love this question because to me, what I hear in this is, as I'm designing my product, how can I think about intellectual property? How can I think about what I'm doing so that I can create some space for myself to own through my patents? What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, that's a really good question. This comes up a lot because, as product developers, we have a lot of knowledge, but we don't have all knowledge. I mean, if I was going to do a product with an electric circuit in it, I would need to get an electrical engineer to help. So it's not uncommon that you need outside help to help you kind of make this product a real thing. Okay.
Yeah.
When you do that, when you get an outside contractor to help you with some aspect of the invention, an industrial designer is going to help you with the way that looks. There's all sorts of different fields where you might need a specialist. Okay. When you do that, you need to get 2 agreements. One is a non-disclosure agreement. So, they're not going to call their cousin in Tennessee and tell them about this product, right? And then the second thing is what's called a work for hire agreement. And what you're doing with a work for hire agreement is you're saying, look, I'm going to hire you, Mr. Contractor, for $5,000 or whatever to do this electronic circuit for me. In exchange for that money, you agree, one, that you will work with me to file the patent paperwork if you come up with something that goes into the patent, which is certainly possible. And 2, that they will assign their interest in the patent back to you or your company, because the patent office wants to know 2 things. Who are the people who contributed to this invention or this design? And secondly, who owns the patent application? And you want to own the patent application 100%. So if you're paying somebody to help you, if they do come up with something that is determined to be, makes them a co-inventor, and that line is kind of tricky where that is. So if they contribute on a design patent, if they contribute to the way this thing looks, because they're an industrial designer and they make it look slick, okay, well, then they're a co-inventor on the design patent. But you don't want them to own the patent. And in the United States, we do it kind of funny. We do it differently than around the world. We file a patent in the name of the inventor and then assign it to the company, okay? So it's important that you get that assignment agreement up front if you can. Or you tell us when we're doing the paperwork to include an assignment agreement, and we'll just include the one that the patent office provides, the sample. But you definitely want to think about this before you contract with that person, because if they come up with something that's like, oh, wow, this is a really cool feature, I'm going to add LEDs. I never thought of adding LEDs to this. Well, if that's something that turns out to be patentable, that's their intellectual property unless they've agreed to give it to you. So just keep that in mind before you start using other contractors, that you want to make sure that you have all those agreements signed and that there's a really good understanding. Hey, this is mine. That's going to be assigned to my company 100%.
Those are excellent considerations to keep in mind and really prevent issues down the line, and frankly seem like a much more professional approach. When you ask for those things with someone you're hiring and working with, you show, hey, I know how this works, and I know what to be aware of. I want to share a question that I think is excellent from Reynaldo in a direct message. Let's say an inventor's coming to you, they're working on something, what do you need and want them to bring to you? Specifically, he says, does a patent agent expect the inventor to provide all the potential designs and embodiments? How does that really play out? And how can inventors and people in this conversation really bring to their patent practitioner, like the best information, the most complete?
Yeah, so on our order forms for patents, we ask a couple of questions. One of them is, you know, what is the kind of the simplest version of your product? Because part of what we have to do when we're writing a patent application is explain to somebody who's reading it, how do you make this and use it? It's instructions on how to make your product. Okay, so if you don't know how to make your product, it's premature to come to your patent agent because what are we going to do? I mean, we don't necessarily know how to make your product either. And you're the expert on your product, right? So if you don't know that, then you've got some homework to do. Once you know how to make it, then it's a good idea to put your competitor's hat on and say, how can I make it different or better and get around this path, right? How would I make it different? What are different options? Could I make this piece out of rubber? Or, you just gotta think about all the different ways that your product could be made, the materials. Can you simplify it? That's a huge one. A lot of people, myself included, I'll make this really complicated thing. And then it turns out, oh, wow, you could just get rid of this whole section and it would still work. Right. So that's what we're trying to get down to. Let's get down to where the first, the core of your invention, that's going to be claim one. And then all the optional add-on features we want to know about as well. And if you can tell us that, then we have everything that we need to write the patent. Drawings help, photos of your prototype help, because we have to have something drawn up, and it's just helpful to have a working prototype, even if it's ugly. For a utility patent, it doesn't matter. Now, for a design patent, we kind of have to have the final design because there is no such thing as a provisional design patent. That doesn't exist. That's right. So it's often more premature to talk about design patents because the final design isn't done. But once you have that, then we would want CAD files in that case, or photographs of a 3D model or a 3D print that's right from the files that are going to be used to make the tooling. If you know how to make the tooling, then you know what the part is going to look like, and then we can start the design patent.
That's really great information. Brandon is now asking a great question that gets more into the tension between what you just talked about. Okay, if you're putting the secret sauce of making that invention in a patent application, well, isn't that disclosing a trade secret? And I think
That's
Brandon, yeah, that really is, my understanding is trade secrets and patents are almost two completely different pathways to go. You're going to kind of choose one or the other. You might decide, I don't want to put this in a patent for that reason. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And my answer is a question back is, why do you think the government of the United States is going to give you the right to stop some other citizen from making this product? Right? And the answer is, they're going to give you the right to exclude others from making, using, or selling this product because you are disclosing your secret sauce. Yeah. That is the whole point of the patent system. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that. You have to make a completely transparent patent application. You cannot hold anything back. You can't say, there's a black box here on my drawing, and then a miracle occurs and, this result comes out. Because if you do that, you are not creating what's called an enabling disclosure. And what that means is you are not enabling the reader to make your product based on what you're disclosing. So that's the quid pro quo. That's why the government gives you a 20-year monopoly. It's a limited monopoly. It's limited in time. They're doing that because you're giving a full disclosure of your secret sauce, right? Now, why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, the benefit to society is 5 years later, some other smart inventor is going to read through your patent and go, oh, I know, I'm going to make it this way. This is even better. And that's how progress happens. And the government has an interest in promoting progress. Okay? That's right in the Constitution. So that's the why. Now you have to ask yourself, do you want to open the kimono and let everyone see the secret sauce, right? And my answer to that probably would have been different 40 years ago, right? Because it's a lot harder to keep a secret now. If you have a chemical composition, you can run it through a spectrum. What I don't know what the equipment is, but a spectrograph or something, and they can figure out exactly the atomic components, right? It's not hard to reverse engineer things anymore. And if you keep it a secret, then in the hopes that it will remain a secret and that you can sell it all over the place and no one's going to know how you make it, that's, you have to have something really special, I think, for that to be the case, because most people can reverse engineer that pretty quick these days.
Yeah.
So it's getting harder, I think, to keep trade secrets, and trade secrets rely on legal agreements that the people you do disclose this to, how to make it, who are working in your factory, for example, they have to agree to be bound by those non-disclosure agreements. That's basically the difference. So your product is going to become public knowledge at some point. And more than that, it's going to show up in the public domain at some point. The question is when. Well, if you go with trade secrets, it's going to be whenever someone discovers what the secret is and they start doing it themselves. Maybe they even publish it, how to do it, right? If you get a patent, it'll go into public domain when the patent expires, which is 20 years from your filing date for utility patents, 15 years for design patents. So it's always going to become a public, in the public domain. It's just a question of when. So I hope that answers the question.
I love that answer to the question. I think learning about trade secrets is really fascinating. They don't get nearly the amount of attention as the other forms of IP, probably because it means the whole thing is you're not disclosing it. You're not filing with the USPTO. There's an expert named James Pooley who has written extensively about this. I dropped an article from IP Watchdog in the chat if anyone would like to check out his work. And we've just got a few more minutes here.
One thing I'll say also is that I can't help people with trade secret agreements because those are legal agreements, and I'm a patent agent. I'm an engineer. I'm not a patent attorney. So they would consider that, the practice of law.
That's exactly right. That's a great question for an attorney in particular.
Yep.
Albert asks a question about conducting a preliminary patent search. Do you have a tool or a system that you like to use? How do you handle patent searching?
Yeah, so that's
patents.
So that's a good question. In fact, let me just post in here. I have an online class, do-it-yourself patent searching. It's on Udemy, and I'll post that in the chat. Oh man, right now they're selling it for $14. This is $65 is the MSRP, but they discount it and I don't make any money there. But anyway, it's a good class because it teaches you how to do, there's 3 things you have to look for when you're doing a search if you want to do a thorough search. And that is obviously keywords. You start with a keyword search, which everyone knows, but you also have to search on class and subclass, because the words that you think to search might not be the words I thought when I wrote the patent, but it'll probably end up in the same subclass, right? And so you want to look at every patent in the relevant subclasses when you're doing the subclass search. And then third, you want to look at forward and backward references. So if you find a particular patent that's pretty close, it solves the same problem, maybe it's done in a little different way or whatever, you want to look on the patents that are on the front cover of that patent, because that's the results of the patent examiner search. When they examine this, say it was in the year 2000, when they examined this was all the patents before 2000 that were relevant to it. And so they might be relevant to you as well. And then also you want to look at the forward references. These are all the more recent patents that cite that 2000 patent on their front page. And there's a way to do that with Google Patents, which is free. If you trust Google, I don't know if you had a search algorithm invention, if I would use Google Patents to search it, because who knows what they're looking at. But all of these apply to the US Patent Office website as well. And you can also do a search on, I like freepatentsonline.com. It's just a fast a fast platform. So anyway, it's important to look at those three things, and you want to try to find, here's the thing that most people miss. You know, if you have an idea for, let's say, a hair product, some kind of accessory that does something to your hair. Well, what's important with patents is not the intended use, it's the structure of the invention. And so if you could use that same, call it a hair curling iron, on your horse's mane or whatever, and it's done in totally a different class because it's for animal husbandry as opposed to your, you know, for use on a person. If the structure is similar, the patent office can use that against you. So your key words can't necessarily be limited to the intended use. And a lot of people will make that mistake. So when we do a search, we're looking for the structure itself, wherever it might be, not necessarily, you know, just for that intended use. So hopefully that answers that question.
That's a phenomenal answer. I would strongly encourage everyone to check out the link that Kevin just shared, a $14 class on something that's so important on teaching yourself how to search for prior art. I'm sorry, Kevin, that Udemy's making that so cheap for us, but I'm excited and happy for all of us.
I will say this, be ready to spend 8 to 12 hours on your first search if you haven't done it before, because it's, you know, it's complicated, and you have to, it's more than one search. You have to keep redoing, changing things, do the search again. And we have a spreadsheet in this class that you can download, and it kind of keeps track of your results and make sure that if you find the same patent, you don't count it twice. And anyway, so it's a good class. It does, but you will spend time. Now, the more searches that you do, especially if you're a prolific inventor, that time should come down. And it's great. If you're a prolific inventor, you really should know how to do this, because it'll save you $600 with us, for example, every time you want to do a search on something. So
I love that. And I want to also share that there's some amazing new AI-based prior art searching tools. I know about one called ipscreener.com that was invented by a former patent examiner from Sweden. And he really wanted to make patent searching easier and better than some of the old systems for doing that. So if you would like to use that tool for free for 30 days, you can use the code INVENTRIGHT. And I'm going to share a video we just dropped on InventRight TV today. Give it a try. And before you take the course, start searching around. Kevin's absolutely right. You can't do a couple searches and think you're done, or look at a few patents. My understanding is there's a real art to this. That's why there's an entire profession that exists around it, that, you might hire one patent searching person to give you one report and find something completely different later. My dad has kind of an iconic story about this, being told, no, there's absolutely no prior art that's relevant. And then a potential licensee immediately finding directly relevant art during a meeting in person. So,
oh gosh.
Yeah. So
that's embarrassing.
It is a little embarrassing. And I think his perspective on the concept of prior art was forever changed. So, we really believe the best strategy is always educate yourself. Take classes, test, learn, don't trust exactly what you hear from any, one other person. Kevin, I want to be mindful of your time. It's already 5:32. You told me that you have a hard out. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you? I believe your website is quickpatents.com. Do you want to leave an email or a phone number? You go for it.
I'll put it in chat, but it's quickpatents.com. My direct email is kevin@quickpatents.com. And you can always just go to our website. The best way is actually to book a time on my calendar. I'll give you 30 minutes for free, and we can get you pointed in the right direction. And if a patent doesn't make sense for your particular situation, I'll let you know that. You would go to the contact us and book an appointment. And I like Zoom because you can show me your prototype and everything, but people do phone calls too, so that's fine. And I am booking about a week in advance right now. It's been super busy, so just be aware of that.
I love to hear that. And I can't believe 90 of you are still on with us. Kevin has been amazingly showing up for most of our IGA meetings to have these special breakout room sessions. Sometimes he's able to go on a little longer. I really appreciate all of you being here, sharing your questions with us. We get to learn from one another. If you would perhaps offer some thanks for Kevin in the chat, I will leave the recording going for a few more minutes. If you have feedback for me or anyone else at Inventors Groups of America, please get in touch with us. Tell us who you want to learn from, who you want to hear from, what you're struggling with, how we can help you. We've been going live about once a month for over 5 years now, and that's because all of you keep showing up and making these meetings super meaningful. And if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't still be here. So Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
I learned something new, and I did. So thanks, everybody.
Good.
Yeah,
We'll
appreciate
talk
it.
to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Have a great evening, everyone. See you next time.
Kevin.
I apologize we couldn't get to everyone's questions, but that's kind of how it goes. And I invite you to come back next time and reach out directly with Kevin. Like he said, he'll answer your questions for 30 minutes in a one-on-one call, which is just incredible. So make sure to take advantage of that resource and have a lovely rest of your day or evening, wherever you're based.
Thanks, Madeleine. Bye.
Appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, was it a good meeting?
It was great. We still got 34 of us here lingering off. I was just waiting for a couple more thanks in the chat. And if Kevin rocked it as normal, he told me, I did not know this, but you don't have to wait a year to refile your PPA. If you wanted to buy yourself some more time, you could refile it every day, and just keep pushing that out, which I'd never even heard that. The art of the PPA, you just don't know.
I love the art of the PPA.
It's
Kevin
great.
does such a great job. There's so much to learn here, and he's just such a good guy too. And I can't believe he comes on and keeps on helping us. So thank you, Madeleine, for taking this on.
Yeah, my
And,
pleasure. I learned something new every single time.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.